Hey guys, welcome to the Investor's Guide of Memphis Real Estate. I'm your host, Dean Harris, and as always, I'm with Douglas Skipworth. Douglas, how are you?
Hey, doing great.
Good. We are bringing you this podcast to give you the boots on the ground knowledge to be a successful investor, real estate investor here in Memphis, Tennessee. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Facebook page, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast or watch us. Show sponsors are listed at the bottom of the screen. We could not do this show without those sponsors. We appreciate all their the value that they add to ourselves, our clients. Zoom calls. If you guys are interested in those Zoom calls, send me an email, dean@CrestCore.com, and just tell me, hey, I'm interested in those. I'm thinking about bringing those back. And then every day I help buyers and sellers. If you're buying anything, selling anything from an investment standpoint in Memphis, give me a call or email, actually, dean@CrestCore.com. I'll be happy to help you with that. And then let's jump into the deal of the week. I got another one.
Cool.
Another good one last week. So here's another good one in 38127. This is Frazier, 2258 Hillside. That's 38127, 3-bedroom, 1-bath, 1,288 square feet. They are listing this one for $81,000. I'm sorry, $81,000. And the rehab is going to be $35K. The ARV is $145,000 to $150,000. And you're going to be able to rent this one for $900 as well. So another good property, another good rental area. Let me run through it real quick. 2258 Hillside, 38127, 3-bedroom, 1-bath, 1,288 square feet. Rehab is going to be about $35K. ARV is going to be about $145K, and it's going to rent for $900. So any questions on that one, dean@crestcore.com. I'll be happy to get you some information over, and let's see if we can burr this thing. It looks like a 100% burr.
Burr all day.
Yeah, in another great area. So call me on that if you have any questions. So today, big topic. I think we're going to talk about mismanagement. Is mismanagement showing up in your portfolio? I believe we're seeing some of this.
Yes.
I got a call yesterday from a gentleman who had 25 here in Memphis, needs to sell them. We're scheduled to talk this afternoon, but he said he'd made some mistakes, and here they go. So I thought this topic would be really good today to talk about. And it's not the most popular and pleasant topic because it's just, it's a lot of negativity in some cases, but I think it's good to bring it up, discuss it, so you can either try to fix it or sell it or get out of this in some way, shape, form, or fashion. So
yeah, you got to speak the truth. Speak the truth in love, as they say, because it's like this is what you might need to hear. You definitely need to hear it as precautionary, or hey, I need to take some action.
Yes, because it's everywhere. Let me tell you what I've been doing this year, and then we'll jump into other mismanagements. Some of you've heard, but I'm selling off properties for a hedge fund here in town.
Right.
Over 300 we've sold this year.
Wow.
100% due to mismanagement.
Yes.
They bought too quickly. They didn't have the crews to keep them up. And now we're selling off 300. Now, you guys are not going to own 10,000 houses and have to sell 300 of them, but you might own 50 and you have to sell 10 or all. Or whatever.
More likely the case.
That's why I'm bringing this up. It's very important. And I think if I gave a percentage on it, I bet 6 to 7 out of 10 investors mismanage. On some level.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I don't find.
Man, I got so much to say.
You got so much to say. Sorry, so let's dive into this.
This is such an important topic, Dean. This is great.
And I have to keep myself from doing it.
And then we're preaching to the choir, bro.
Yeah. I had my first property, and we've talked about it. I mismanaged so bad I had to sell it. And I was in the business. Battlefield. 3934 Battlefield. I'll never forget it. And you can look it up. It's got my name on there. It's selling it. It's wild. So I mismanaged that property so bad. That was back in 2015.
You learned a lot.
You learned a lot, even though I'd sold 100 or whatever the number was at that point. I'd sold a ton of investment properties.
It wasn't until you
bought the first one and messed it up.
Yeah.
So, what are we talking about with mismanagement? Let's give a few of these examples. I'll give one here. Not raising your rent to market rent when your tenant's current lease expires. I don't understand why investors continue to do this. And you might say, well, I don't want the tenant to leave because I don't want to rehab. Let's pump the brakes. If you raise the rent $50, $100, whatever the percentage might be in that rental range, and that tenant, I don't want that, encourage them to go call around. You're not raising the rent over, you're not trying to set records here. If you're raising the rent to, the key word here, market rent. If you're raising to market rent, encourage them to go call around. I've done this several times over the last couple of years where I've had to raise the rent to market rent. Tenants, I'm not paying it. their lease isn't up for 30 days. Next thing you know, they call around for a week or so and they realize, well, that's the rent. So I'm not going to move to pay the same rent. They come back and sign the lease.
Yeah.
So that's one of mine. What's one of yours?
Yeah. I like that. I like that. Not completing repairs as needed or halfway doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yes.
I did that. That's what I did on Battlefield. So I'll give you an example, and I'll be quick. 3934 Battlefield, I bought it in 2015. It was my first one. I got an $8,800 rehab back, right, from the contractor.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And I was like, I don't want to pay $8,800. I'd like to only pay about $5,500. That was what I had in my budget that I thought I was using. So what did I do? I got my little pencil out. I started going through and clipping off stuff that I thought I could go without. Unnecessary. And what happened? I got the rehab done. I moved a tenant in. And within 3 weeks, there's a maintenance call. I was like, okay, well, no big deal. Like, okay. Another couple of weeks, here's another one. Another couple of weeks, here's another one. And then there was almost one a week for forever.
Yeah. Little. Cut death by 1,000 cuts.
This outlet doesn't work. My faucet's leaking in the bathroom.
Right.
This light fixture doesn't work. I put in a new light. That kind of stuff that I cut out. And then here I am, the first 6 months, I'm getting eaten alive by maintenance calls. No cash flow, negative return every month. I'm
not to mention the tenant experience.
Oh, the tenant's ready to move out. They're done. They don't want to live in this property. And of course, what they do after I had it about 8 months, they notified management. They weren't staying. They wanted to move out.
Yeah.
I messed it up. Not completing the rehab. That was my second note. Not completing repairs as needed or halfway completing them altogether is a major mismanagement foul.
Yeah. Yeah. Happens all the time. Easy to skimp.
Yeah. Because you're trying to make something happen that you probably shouldn't. I probably should have renegotiated my price or ponied up the extra cash to do the rehab the right way.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we've got. This one is huge. Not using a management company or keeping records of the house really clean. I can't tell you how many times I've tried to sell a house or houses or a package for somebody, and the buyer would ask for maintenance history and a ledger.
Right.
And the guy sends me an email with his handwriting on a notepad.
Yeah.
123 Main Street paid their rent.
Yeah.
I'm like, that doesn't work, man. I know when people are buying rental houses, they want to have official records. They want to have something that looks good. Not hiring a management company, in my opinion, if you have more than one house, is a bad move.
Yes.
Bad.
Yeah. No, plug for property management in general. We can talk about show sponsor CrestCore property management.
Yeah.
But property management in general, because they are going to, first thing they're going to do is they're going to vet applicants.
Yes.
They're going to do a process. They're going to protect you from fair housing. They're going to make it available to all. They've got a process.
Yep.
They're going to vet and run them through the process.
Yep.
Then they're going to have them get a security deposit. They're going to get a signed lease. They're going to do all the things that it's easy to skimp on. Then they're going to your point, they're going to bill the tenant through their property management software. So they're going to have a copy of that ledger every month with late fees. They're going to enforce the rent and enforce the late fees. Mm-hmm. They're going to enforce evictions if it comes to that. And then to your point, they're going to keep track of the maintenance as calls come in, as they go out and do things.
It's all good stuff.
Not to mention at the end of the month, they're going to be able to spit out, here's what it looked like for that month. So you're going to be able to do everything from the lease info, everything about the tenant, everything about the maintenance on the property, and then everything about the income expenses of the property by month. So that's just administrative stuff that a property manager does. Not to mention all the relational things that they do.
So one thing I hear to that is the counter is, well, I don't want to pay 10% management. Well, let me give you let's look how this might look. Let's vision this out. Right? You don't want to pay 10%. Well, nobody wants to pay anything. Right?
Yeah.
Who does?
Right.
But let's play this out. Let's say you got 10 properties, you're managing them yourself, you're halfway keeping up the records. You're keeping up some, but halfway keeping up the records. You go down the road and you look to sell them, okay? Do you think that you're going to lose more than that 10% on the sell because you kept up poor records? I hope you do, because you will. Never mind. You know what I'm saying? Are you following?
Yes.
Maybe I'm not doing a good job.
You're not going to get the highest value you can from having the cleanest records.
No.
By market value.
The exchange of the 10% in management fees is going to pay for itself 3 or 4 times when you go and sell the property, because the value, I'm here to tell you, I sell these every day. I'm here to tell you that the value of a property that's professionally managed, and I can hand you over leases, ledgers, maintenance history, and all
security
this
deposit. How many security deposits do you have that the owner, self-manager doesn't have? They've spent it, and then they have to get on the HUD, where it's like, no, it's no problem to give that security deposit because the property management's been keeping it separate like they're supposed to.
So that's what I'm saying.
Yes.
Those are the things that you will mismanage. If you've got 10 or 15 houses in a portfolio, and you've got 15 grand in not security deposits over there, and you're running low on cash, you're gonna spend the money.
Not to mention, and I think you've been able to take advantage of this with your relationships with property management and the brokerage, is you have, as a seller in if you're using a professional property manager and you want to sell your property, you have a captive audience of buyers who are already using that manager and transferring that portfolio or that property to another client of that property management company is seamless. And so those people will pay a premium. I have done that myself as a property who is managed by property management here for sale. Just move it over to my portfolio. Tenants nobody bats an eye. So and it's managed well. It's just a great, to your point, you can get a premium, potentially get a premium for that. Or let's rephrase it. You won't take a discount.
That's my point.
You won't take a discount.
I don't know how much more value
you won't take a discount
because it's managed professionally, but no one's going to cut your throat because of it, right?
Agreed.
I mean,
that's right.
They can't.
Yes.
But if you come in there on a
napkin or back of an envelope,
and you tell me, right? Oh man! And you have all this stuff detailed out. That's hysterical. We're laughing at you.
Yeah.
I won't do it on the phone.
Yellow legal pads. I mean, we've seen it all. We've seen it all.
I won't laugh on the phone with you, but when I hang it up, we'll laugh about it. Yeah. It's just hysterical that people will keep up. I'm just being honest with you. I know that sounds aggressive, but it is hysterical that anyone believes that they can. If you're doing a spreadsheet and this is your job and you've got everything detailed out and it's documented and that's you, okay. Let's be honest though. That's not most of us. That's not
even
me.
The best of us get sidetracked, and you have other things because you start cutting corners because you'd rather be buying and doing other things to grow your portfolio
100%
and maximize your rent than doing bookkeeping. And I've got a CPA license, and I understand that you cut corners and don't do that things. Hey, not to mention, Dean, you told me a story.
Yeah.
You remember that story you told me this week about a friend who used to manage at a professional manager, built a big enough portfolio that decided now they can self-manage, and they were managing that portfolio thoroughly, hands-on, intense. Yeah. And then over time, they got a little looser, and what
Next
happened?
thing you know, the person they hired had started stealing the rent. I mean, that's mismanagement.
And it was to the tune of $50K.
He has a lot of money. I think he's going to recover and make it. He has a large portfolio, but this is
that story is not unique.
Unfortunately, no. I've got several of those over the years of people taking advantage of others.
I mean, I've just bigger pockets way out there. I mean, I just saw that happen with the contractor. We paid the contractor up front, and now they're ghosting us.
Yeah.
My point, and I think your point in this, is that mismanagement a lot of time comes from self-management, because when you use a third-party property manager in a rehabber that comes vetted and recommended and used, you eliminate some of these challenges that other people have.
One thing you said a minute ago, I think is key, is that how many more houses and how much more can you do without having to keep up with all that bookkeeping? I guarantee you it's more than the 10% that you would pay out to a management company. I mean, meanwhile, you're sitting here doing all this paperwork and spreadsheets and all this for hours every week. I used to get up at
4:30 in the morning so I could get to the office, and from 5 to 6, I would do my bookkeeping on my properties. And I did that for a year.
And you see
it was miserable. Yeah. I went out of town for 2 days, and I came back to 16 hours extra of work. Because I'd missed those 2 8 hours of work.
So
because I had to do it, because I was self-managing.
Yeah, and yes. So never mind just the workload. That's big enough to hire a management company anyway. But think about the time and what you're doing, and you're suspending your operation to buy because you're over here trying to key in somebody paid rent on a spreadsheet, right? I think you're doing a lot of disservice to your own business by self-managing. I don't care how smart you are, I don't care how good you are. If you're self-managing a portfolio over 3 or 4 or 5 houses, you're wasting your time, in my opinion.
Good point. And we can beat that one.
Yeah, I could. Buying in the wrong areas due to eagerness to scale. I've seen this happen a ton.
Guilty.
Yeah, it's happened.
It was my Achilles heel for the longest time, and thankfully you helped us sell all those off.
Move those off. So, I'm all for scaling. I'm all for getting a large portfolio, but I am not. You've heard me say this about some turnkey providers, right? They're going into some zip codes because the inventory is so low. They're going into some other areas that have been historically not as good or not as attractive for an investor. So to me, it's, going into areas that you're not familiar with or historically a challenge that maybe they're on the up and coming. You're gambling. I think you're gambling, and I think that could lead to a ton of mismanagement. Let's see. This one is real popular. Accepting a tenant that isn't fully qualified. That's a super popular move by investors when they got a home that's been sitting there for a minute, right? For one, it might not be marketed the same when you talk to your property management company.
I was like, this sounds like a self-manager.
And if you don't have one and you're marketing it, I think you need to go talk to a management company. So you need to assure yourself that you're marketing the property right. You're fully vetting those tenants. You're going through the credit checks and the things that they go through to make sure that you're getting the right tenant.
Background checks. Yeah, and I could think the kind of made the reverse of that coin is when you put that person in, then if you allow that tenant to maintain a balance. Yes. A delinquent balance, and you don't enforce evictions, and you don't enforce late fees, and you don't enforce payment policies, that all of a sudden you look up and that person owes 2 months worth of rent, and now you try and get them out, and it turns into 4 months of rent.
And
like
there
we've seen that, and it's like that's why you got to again, and it's a lot easier. We've been there, done that. I'm speaking from personal experience. It's a lot easier to have a intermediary, i.e., a property manager. Mm-hmm. Enforce rules than it is to enforce them yourself, because it's easy to get everybody. Life happens to all of us, man. And people go to the hospital, people lose jobs, people get in accidents, and all of a sudden other things happen where they need to allocate funds to this. And man, it's hard to be a self-manager and do that.
Almost impossible in my opinion. Next one is not paying your taxes and your insurance. Guys, if you're not taking out your average taxes and insurance out of the rent and putting it in a separate account every month, you're setting yourself up for disaster, especially the more you build your portfolio. I mean, the larger it gets, the more you're due. In Memphis, they're due in August and in February. We got city and county. So you got 2 times a year you've got taxes due. If you're not, the larger this gets, if you're not pulling that money out for your insurance and your taxes, I think you can get caught.
I participated in, my son and I have been looking at properties together, and we participated in 3 auctions in the past 30 days. Mm-hmm. 3 different auctions. Every time, every case, delinquent taxes.
Yeah.
Delinquent taxes. So the person is having to put their house up for sale and they were all way different kind of auctions. Some was a package, some was this, that, and that. But every one, delinquent taxes.
That ought to tell you right there.
Yeah.
Make sure that you're taking those out every month. Okay, what to do? We gave you all this information about how terrible you're doing and how awful everything's are with mismanagement. So let's go the opposite way. Let's talk about how to clean up this mismanagement and kind of give you a few little pointers here before we end the podcast. Get all records updated on each house, maintenance and rent history. We talked about at the beginning of this podcast about how those things are looked at and frowned upon with buyers if you do not have them. So this isn't something I think you can do in a day. I think you need to be able to clean them up for the last few months, and then worst case scenario, start taking better, records from here forward, right? Even if somebody came to me and said, "Hey, for 6 months, I've been keeping up great records. I did a poor job of it prior." That's okay.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. At least I know what the last 6 months really looks like.
That's right.
So I would encourage you to do that. Number 2, let's see. So I can't read my own handwriting. Starting this to rate. Oh, raise your rent to market rent when leases expire. That's pretty simple. Stick to that.
Yeah,
don't move off of that. I don't feel like you're going to scare tenants away with your market rent rise, right? I mean, it is what it is everywhere else. Let's see here. Make sure you have the proper management company. Stop self-managing. We kind of talked about that. Improve the quality of your house that you're buying. That's a big one. We didn't discuss that. If you're having a hard time managing a $600 tenant in a $60,000 house, well, then go buy something else. Like the burst strategy and everything works the same way. I got caught. I fell victim to this early.
Yeah.
I thought, man, I can only afford to buy $50,000 houses or 60, whatever it was, that rent for X. It's a horrible feeling and a mistake, because go buy a $150,000 house. The rent's higher. It's the same system, right? Same system. You're going to pay the same rent. You're going to have the same process as you do with these.
I mean, those last two. You said stop self-managing and then improve the quality of the houses. I regret self-managing. I've said that on the podcast, and I just talked about it earlier. And then I've done that. I've improved. You know that I was able to move out of some of the houses that I scaled myself wrongly into.
Yep.
And then I've moved into a higher quality. The last stuff, the two we have on our contract are great. The one last month was great. Super excited. Repositioning the portfolio for the long haul. Repositioning
is the key. If you're struggling with the product that you're buying and you're renting out, let's think about changing that product, right? Lastly here, go back and see if you can make any repairs. Go back and see if you can put a lipstick on a pig, see if, so to speak, see if there's anything that you can do if you're getting ready to sell, or even if you're just readjusting to pivot to long-term holds or what have you. See if there's something you can do with the house to help improve lasting condition, appearance, whatever it may be. I would start to analyze each one of I'm going through this with my portfolio now. I'm going to visit each one of them over the next 6 months. Okay. Take another full set of pictures, look ahead and see what's coming. Am I going to have some CapEx expenditures coming? Probably so. Yeah. I'd like to be prepared for that.
And I was going to say, get a system to review the properties, which is yours, what that looks like. I know at some property management companies, show sponsor CrestCore does the same, where they do a property inspection every quarter. So they get that report. They get you a house. Here's what the house looks like. Here, interior photos. Here's what the repairs need to be made. But then you need to review that. At a minimum, you're getting the monthly statement. I've set aside a week, to deep dive onto all my properties, handle anything. Obviously, stuff's coming in and out, and I'm thinking about it a lot. But it's like, you got to have a system to review it. Because, and I think my big takeaway from all this and mismanagement is I say it often, there is no such thing as passive income.
No.
There's less active income, but there's not passive income. No. And that's what mismanagement is. A lot of times happen when people think, oh, it's passive. No. You need to manage the manager. You are the money manager. You are the investment manager.
You just told a story earlier about one of our somebody that we know here in town that didn't manage the manager, and they stole from him. So it's like, even if you hire somebody separately and you grow in your own portfolio, like, you need to manage that person. I mean, you have to have some kind of look on it. So
that's fair.
Mismanagement's up there. If you have any questions, Dean@CrestCore.com. I'll encourage you to give me a call. I'll be happy to discuss it, help you sell it, help you improve it, whatever I can do to try to assist you to make that property better. Got anything else?
No, great, man.
Okay, guys, talk to you soon. We'll see you next week.